For nearly 2 months, Bengaluru, India's Silicon Valley, had been roasting under a relentless sun. The city was gasping. Residents had been looking up at the sky every single day, praying for even a drop of relief. When would the rain finally come?
Well, it came. This Wednesday evening, the skies finally opened up over the city. But instead of bringing the relief people had desperately waited for, those very rains brought death to their doorstep. At Bowring Hospital in Shivajinagar, a compound wall gave way, and when the dust settled, 7 lives had been swallowed by the rubble. And the part that breaks your heart completely, 3 of those 7 were young children. So let's walk through exactly what happened at the Bowring Hospital tragedy and what the city experienced during this catastrophic downpour.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a story that is honestly just as heartbreaking as it is urgent. For the past 2 months, Bengaluru, often known as India's Silicon City, was absolutely sweltering. It was trapped in this brutal heat wave. People were literally looking up at the sky, desperately praying for the monsoon to arrive and finally break those unbearable temperatures. And then, on a Wednesday evening, the skies opened up. But the heavy downpour that was supposed to bring relief, it actually brought an unimaginable catastrophe right to the heart of the city. Let's dive into this and examine the tragic structural collapse at Shivajinagar's Bowring Hospital, how a much-anticipated summer rain turned into a deadly nightmare, and really what it reveals about the hidden dangers in our urban infrastructure.
I want you to picture the scene for a second. Millions of residents have been dealing with a boiling, relentless summer for 8 solid weeks. Every single weather update was watched with bated breath. So when the sudden, massive downpour hit, the initial reaction across the city was pure joy and relief. But nature and neglected infrastructure can be a really volatile mix. As the rain battered the city streets, water quickly began pooling around areas like Russell Market and Bowring Hospital in Shivajinagar. In a matter of minutes, the entire narrative flipped. The exact same rain the city had been begging for transformed into a destructive force, turning a regular Wednesday evening into a scene of sudden, horrific loss.
The tragedy unfolded incredibly fast. It's almost like a domino effect. First, the heavy, unexpected downpour begins. Anyone caught in the open knows that instinct, right? You immediately look for the nearest cover. Step 2, street vendors who are operating right next to the hospital, along with pedestrians caught in the deluge, they rush to the massive compound wall of Bowring Hospital to take shelter from the blinding rain. Step 3 is the disaster. The wall, which we now know was incredibly old and severely weakened by the sudden onslaught of wind and water, just gives way. It doesn't just crumble, it collapses entirely, instantly crushing those who had trusted it for safety. And finally, the frantic, immediate arrival of the Shivajinagar police and fire brigade to a scene of total devastation. Because of the sheer velocity and the immense weight of that massive stone and brick compound collapsing all at once, 7 people lost their lives instantly under the rubble. The force was so absolute that there was no time to run, no time to react. 7 lives entirely snuffed out in a matter of seconds, right there on the street. What makes this genuinely heartbreaking, though, is that out of those 7 victims crushed by the debris, 3 were young, innocent children. Children who were likely just playing nearby, or maybe huddled next to their parents waiting for the rain to pass. It is a completely gut-wrenching detail that has, rightfully so, sent shockwaves of grief throughout the entire city of Bengaluru. It elevates this from a mere structural failure to a profound human tragedy. So, the crucial point we really need to transition to is this pressing question. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Was this simply an unavoidable act of God brought on by an aggressive storm, or was this a fatal failure of civic duty? Look, when a wall falls and takes the lives of children and bystanders, we have to look past the weather and examine the foundation. What was the true state of this hospital's infrastructure? Down on the streets, local residents aren't blaming the rain. They are unequivocally pointing fingers right at the hospital administration and the municipal corporation. Based on the sources from the ground, this wasn't just an old wall. It was a wall that had been chronically neglected. Locals allege it was highly unhygienic, often used as a dumping ground and a public urinal, with basically zero maintenance or structural checks from the hospital management. The sentiment is crystal clear. They believe that sheer, persistent negligence, just a complete lack of respect for the safety of patients and the public, is what truly claimed those 7 lives. They argue that if there had been even a shred of accountability, that weak wall would have been repaired or brought down safely a long time ago. As we look at the rescue and the immediate aftermath, the grim reality of the situation really sets in. First responders from the police and fire departments fought valiantly against the ongoing rain and the massive debris. They had to quickly deploy heavy machinery like JCB earth movers and specialized stone cutters just to slice through the collapsed compound. It was a massive, frantic operation. But, tragically, as the debris was painstakingly cleared, the heavy stones had already done their damage. Not a single person trapped beneath was found alive. And in a bitterly tragic irony, the victims were then transported just a few feet away, right into the mortuary of the very same Bowring Hospital whose wall had just ended their lives. Naturally, a disaster of this magnitude in the heart of the capital demands an immediate response from the highest levels of state government. Chief Minister Siddharamaiah swiftly visited the site to assess the catastrophic damage firsthand and gather information directly from the responding officials. He, alongside Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivakumar, has addressed the media and promised official compensation for the grieving families. But beyond the financial compensation, this event has triggered a massive public outcry and a strict demand directed at the government: the immediate identification and demolition of all other weak, dilapidated structures across the city before they can claim more lives.
And this brings us to a crucial takeaway for anyone living in the city right now. The police have issued urgent, actionable safety warnings. Because remember, this is just the beginning of the monsoon season. More rain is expected in Bengaluru. They are actively pleading with the public: do not seek shelter under old, poorly maintained buildings. Do not stand near weak compound walls, no matter how heavy the rain gets. And stay far away from old trees that might have weakened roots. These aren't just polite suggestions, as we've just seen. They are literal matters of life and death.
Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought. As the monsoon continues to bring desperately needed relief to a heat-scorched city, we really have to ask, how many more of these hidden hazards are just waiting unchecked on our daily commutes? This tragedy at Bowring Hospital forces us to look completely differently at the everyday infrastructure around us. It challenges us to demand better civic accountability and to stay hyper-aware of our surroundings. The rain might wash the streets, but it certainly also exposes the fatal cracks in our urban planning. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Stay safe out there, stay observant, and I'll see you next time.